All right, today I have Joe Tandle on the podcast. He is going to be talking to us about all things community, all things communication. Calls himself a communication expert and community expert. And we're going to really drop in today to what does it mean to be in community and how has that transformed your life. And it's something that I found to be just one of the most important pillars of healing, of connection, of self-leadership, and just really diving into what does community mean, because there's so many different types of community out there. And dropping into how somebody who doesn't feel like they have a sense of community can maybe find a sense of community, can access the different types of community around the world that you have both curated and experienced and explored, and communication as being a huge part of the bridge of community and understanding how to effectively communicate within these realms so that we can really step into being community leaders or step into being a part of something bigger than ourselves. So Joe, welcome today.
Thank you.
What does community mean to you?
You know, I see community as an umbrella, a place for people to stand underneath when it serves them. And, you know, many times people can think of a community as a closed container that you can't get out of. But to me, it really is an umbrella. When there's something important or it serves, you can move and stand underneath it. When it's raining, you're huddled together with the people you really love and care about. Or maybe it's just people that have a shared interest or a shared need in that moment. So when I think of community, a good way to think about it is come in unity. How do we come together in community? Is we find that moment of synchronicity, that moments of unity that makes us feel like we're part of something that's larger than just the self. It now becomes about the whole and becoming part of an organism, a living organism.
I love that so much. And really just thinking about that, I just want to go into that like a little deeper, like being a part of a whole, that kind of concept. And yeah, just going a little, maybe just bringing that a little deeper. Why would somebody want to be a part of a whole if, especially for somebody who's never really felt that way or felt what it felt like to really feel accepted in a community? Why would it be something they would seek or maybe change their life to welcome in? Or what about that is so human?
You know, you said it in the beginning, community is really the ultimate medicine. And even from a scientific perspective, we know this to be true. But when we go to the blue zones, we really thought it was going to be all about diet. But the reality was the only thing that was really, really common between these people living a long time was actually community and a sense of purpose. As you get older, you're still part of the tribe. You're not outcast. You're not in a nursing home dying by yourself in a soulless, lifeless, white walls with no art and painting and nothing to do. You know, you're in community. You are helping with children. You're in the garden, moving around, getting down on your hands and knees. You have a purpose. So when you are by yourself, it's much harder to feel a sense of purpose. And personally, the reason why community has been such an important part of my life, or has been a driving force, when I've looked back, it was because I know what it feels like to be on the outside. And, you know, we've all felt this, where we feel like we're the kid that doesn't get picked on the kickball team, or we're the one that got pushed down the stairs because we're smaller or weirder or smarter. And it sucks. And it hurts and it's confusing. And that feeling that you get when you are on the outside and you're not accepted for who you truly are, that's the feeling that I don't want to have. And that's the feeling that I don't want anyone else to have. So, quite frankly, the effort to pull people together, yes, it's beautiful to help others and to open your arms, but ultimately it's creating a beautiful life for yourself. The more you're giving, the more you're really receiving. I invited you over. What's the first experience that you had coming to Bali?
I just so people are a little caught up on where I am, I dropped into Bali just a few days ago, reached out to Joe because I know he's been here. Joe and I actually met at Burning Man a couple years ago through our Burning Man camp. And that's a whole sense of community we can definitely tap into. And yeah, Joe is like, come over. I'm staying at this amazing place with these incredible people from the moment I landed in this part of Bali, Ubud. And yeah, just from the moment I walked into this space, I texted Joe like 10 minutes after I arrived being like, sorry, I just immediately dropped in with your community. Because as soon as I got here, everyone was like, what are you up to? And who are you? And how do you know Joe? And here's what we're doing here. And come enjoy this. Do you want a cup of coffee? We're having banana pancakes. And from the moment I got here, I felt so welcome and so seen, and people were curious about me. It wasn't just them talking about themselves. It was like a mutual, like, what are you up to? What are you up to? It was a conversation. And I think that's a really important part of feeling safe in a place, is to feel like people really are curious about you. They want you here. And I feel like the moment I got here, I just felt taken in by this beautiful little community that you've developed here just in a few days, it sounds like. So yeah, what do you got going on here? And and who are all these people, and what is Bali life like for you? Because I know this is a home, a place you call home, and there's a whole aspect of your own personal community that you've developed here. And yeah, I would just love for you to speak to the sacredness that this place particularly has offered you in community, and then you can maybe segue into, I know you have multiple communities around the world, so segue into what do your communities look like, and how have they developed, and how have they served and nurtured you?
Yeah, it's interesting. The way that you felt coming into this space, that's how I want to feel going into any space.
Yes, yeah.
And that's the life hack. The life hack is community, because when you are in community, everything's available. You don't have to go find it or look for it. You have people who are like, what do you need? Oh, you know what? I don't have that, but I think I know someone that does.
Yes.
Or I don't have it, but I think we could get it this way. Let's do that together. That's community. So it's having an advantage, is having access to a lot of things. And there's just practicalities, whether that's networking for jobs, finding a really amazing partner, friendship, being able to accomplish things that you've always wanted to accomplish. That's all available if you are in a really amazing, right fit experience community where people are actually also interested in that culture of giving and being there for each other. And when you walked in, it was like, Nikki's making banana pancakes. She's a friend from way back in New York and my co-living days that I started. And Rance I met in Bali. Ali's an old friend from traveling all around the world. And a friend of mine has a space, a gorgeous villas next to each other in Ubud, Bali. And she's doing maintenance on the place. And the place is way too expensive to be renting on a nightly basis, because it's basically a wedding venue, right? Or a venue to come together and for celebrations. It's expensive.
Yeah.
But because they're doing renovations, we talked. We said, hey, let's get some awesome people together. We're still paying money for it. And it's still not super cheap, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not what it probably normally is. Yeah. So in a few days, I just said, all right, guys, let's do this. Who's interested? Got some friends together. And it was what I call a casual co-creation. So, we can work out in the morning if people are into it. Then everyone kind of works during the day. And then at night, we're doing dinner parties. On Sunday, we had a It's got a beautiful river with a cave that looks like a yoni, and some swimming pools, and multiple pools. And so had an event, which is a going away party, because I'm going to do some traveling soon, and it's about creating a space where people feel seen by the rest of the others and heard, and feel comfortable enough to just be themselves. Mm-hmm. And
that's the medicine.
That's the medicine, because now, and then also the second part that's important to me is the invitation to step into your power and do what you are really good at.
Yes.
So totally. What are you interested in contributing? Like, what do you want to contribute? And I did a whole festival like this, Bali Bloom. The whole premise was your stage, your festival. What do you want to contribute? And, brought some of that Burning Man culture to Bali, because it didn't exist. And that ended up doing that for many years, and it was amazing.
What were some of the craziest things people brought into the space?
God, I don't even know if I can talk about some of them.
I remember at Burning Man, you mentioned, I think we dove into some deep stuff around vulvas, and it sounded like there was some really interesting and unique things people were bringing into the space that they were discussing that isn't normally discussed. And it's not, of course, even at a place like Burning Man, even there people were learning. None of us had heard of any of the things that you were teaching us that you had mentioned came from this festival, from different people who had lectured. And what were some of the most memorable things, or things that you takeaways that were so powerful and profound for you, or people out there doing crazy things that you wish everyone could see? Just a few, maybe some most memorable moments.
That's a good question. I mean, it's just fun, and there's hundreds of things that are happening. The beautiful thing about Bali is the facilitation level is extremely high here. The facilitators are world renowned. So the Bloom was a lot of that. And something that comes up right away is learning about the intuition that we have, and learning how to tune into that intuition, whether that's in business or life and romantic partnerships. That was something that I really learned. It was Sarah Blackow that did that workshop, and that was really incredible. There's a lot of really world-renowned Tantra teachers who are into sacred sexuality that did some workshops that were really mind-blowing, and some of them a little edgy. And I think some of the business teachings that were happening, and we had a lot of people in the crypto space, and more interestingly in the Tao space, which I think is a very interesting concept that people are talking about. But to me, it's even less about the things that we're learning. It's the way we're learning them, which is, in much of our lives, there is the teacher and the guru, the expert in something. And I don't resonate with that. You said communication, community expert, and I can take that, and I do know a ton about it, but I don't like the idea that I have all the answers. What I'm interested in is, what things have you learned? What things have I learned? What things has he or she learned? And how do we share that knowledge in a space where it can freely travel? Oh, well, what challenges do you have right now? Here's my challenges. Let's talk about them. This is what I've learned. Here's some things that we can do. And anything that I am teaching, I have learned from someone else. Anything that you are teaching, you've learned from someone else. So how do we create that space where that's happening all the time, in joy, in silliness, in playfulness, in wildness, right? That's the interesting intersection for me. And that's the community I want to be in, is one that's silly, fun, playful, allows you to be yourself, but allows you to be brilliant, and doesn't try to make you less, but makes you more, because someone's underneath you, holding you up, pushing you up.
I feel like I've been really so blessed. I have had a lot of teachers and mentors and these experts in things that have walked into my life over and over and over and over again. And they've helped me in that way. And I think it's easy for me to look back and and pay and give honor to the different people who've come in and inspired me or elevated me or gave me platform or gave me space or let me do trade work, all of the amazing things I've been gifted in this lifetime. A big part of it is that there were different communities that I had access to and had the privilege of had access to. And I was just speaking with one of the women here earlier about couch surfing and the crazy experiences I've had through that community of traveling around the world. And Workaway, something we were speaking about earlier, that is a whole community around the world of people who want to learn and are willing to exchange their skills and learn from others. And then of course, there's just an endless amount of communities out there really offering that to help people elevate into the next version of themselves, into the next best part of their life, the next chapter. And in order for us to really do that and step into that, there has to really be a level of safety. We have to really feel that it's true, not just for us, but that the people who are around us who are helping us elevate authentically are offering that. Because then otherwise we have other parts step in who maybe feel guilty or shame or discomfort or whatever it is around accepting other people's gifts. And it really takes other people to say, hey, this is authentic. Like, this is a safe space for you to accept this gift and accept this teaching, accept this offering, whatever it is. And I think that level of safety comes back to the ethos of having a really authentically strong community and the safety that is required as individuals within that space, so that we really can elevate into the next version of ourselves, so to speak. And I would just love mentors is a big part of the thing that I'm always trying to reiterate over and over and over again to people that I get to connect with, is the importance of having mentors and teachers. And any expert will say they know nothing, right? Like that most gurus will say that they don't actually know anything. And maybe that's part of it, that acceptance that we're always just students at the end of the day. But I'm just curious to know if there's any mentors or teachers that you've had in your life that have really, or communities in specific that helped you step into whatever chapters in your life that felt just so nourishing and rewarding and inspiring to help you become where you're at now.
It's interesting. You mentioned couch surfing. I helped really start that in New York City. I wrote the trust and safety guidelines for New York, and was one of the first ambassadors and helped grow the weekly meetups. That was me, and Bastian and some other really amazing people. And grew that from, I actually was hosting probably about 300 people a year for many years.
Wow. And just for people who don't know what couch surfing is, maybe you can just give a quick little, what is couch surfing? 'Cause
it was super cool when it first started. It was a cultural exchange where you could stay at someone's house for free, traveling around the world, in the vouching system. And you could just welcome them into your home. They don't pay anything, and you just show them your world. And I was living in Brooklyn at the time, in Williamsburg, and I was, Williamsburg, and then also in Bushwick, and just welcoming people almost every single night.
I bet there were so many people messaging you all the time.
Oh God, yeah, because I was also throwing a lot of events. I actually founded the Couch Crash Festival, which I think's still going, but that was a long time ago. And a bunch of other things. And that was a lot of fun, although a little too much drinking for my taste. And it started getting a little sketchy after a while for me, because people, once they realized what was happening, a lot of people were taking advantage of it.
The culture has shifted a lot. I've been doing it for about 10 years, and I've noticed there's been a little bit of a shift within the culture and the safety within the culture. But definitely in its foundation, it was...
It was awesome.
One of the most incredible.
Casey was a friend. And, anyway, very cool. So I think that really helped me. Interestingly enough, what it helped me do was help me iterate in who I wanted to be. And there was some advantages and disadvantages to that, because someone would come in from this other country. They would come into your home, you'd say hello, you were looking for connection, you would say or do certain things and they would like you or not like you, and you would kind of notice how they responded to that from different places, and you would give a lot and show them around, and there was an appreciation there, or many times there was. And then you very likely would have a very good connection, sometimes amazing, sometimes not so well. But if you had a good connection, it might be for a week or 2 weeks, and then they would continue on in their travels. Someone else would come in, and you would try to stay in touch, put some energy, and then it would dissipate, and that was kind of
Travel
this pattern.
culture, yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of the pattern. And I realized after a while, the reason why I started getting out of it was that pattern felt unhealthy for me, because I was desiring deeper, more long-term connections. And when you're iterating that fast, the positive things is you can see who you are. What's your narrative? What do you keep saying over and over again?
Yeah.
How do you present yourself? And I think there was some things that I learned about myself that where I was falling into these narratives and becoming someone that sometimes I wanted to be that person and sometimes I didn't. And I became this character. It was Joe Che was the nickname. And and at some point I realized that character is over for me, that character. And at Burning Man, they call me that for many years. And I had split the name so I could be doing business in very high end circles, CEOs of Fortune 5 companies. I had a software business. And when I was throwing parties and being a musician and doing couch surfing or doing, the Burning Man world, there's some debaucherous stuff that happens there. It's a lot of hedonism that's happening. So how did you break those worlds apart? Well, you have a new name for it. And then after a while, I had sold one of my businesses and that name just dissipated. And it wasn't back till I got to Bali about 4 years ago that I decided to put Joe Che away and go back to Joe Tandle, because there was no need for two names, because my life was in alignment to what I wanted to be, who I wanted to be for the most part, and I didn't need to separate. So I think that community, Burning Man community, has been really interesting, running really large camps and iterating on what it's like to be a leader in complete, absolute chaos. You really cannot get any more chaotic or more difficult of a situation outside of probably war or war zones or disaster areas is probably the only thing more difficult than Burning Man. And
as far as like navigating that many people in that harsh of an environment. And
yes.
So that was something I definitely wanted to dive into, is Burning Man, because in meeting you at Burning Man, we had quite a few camp leaders who kind of decided to take on that role at our camp, Camp Muse, this wonderful, really amazing Camp Muse Cafe, I should say, beautiful camp. And you were one of the men to really, there was really only like 3 men, I feel like, who really stepped into, more than that. But as far as that I saw as really stepped in as the leaders, help guide the things and be a part of organization, and then also getting the tasks done as well. You're definitely probably the first person that comes to mind as far as really stepping into that role, taking that on alongside of our, camp creators, and making sure everything ran smoothly. People were doing their jobs, everyone's needs were met, people were comfortable. And in Burning Man, of course, again, going back to how harsh of an environment it is and how challenging it is. It was my first year also. So I was extremely confused, uncomfortable. I had no idea what to expect. I had never met anyone at our camp before. So I just walked into the unknown fully and felt very received by, I wouldn't say everybody at camp. I would say there was a handful of people I felt very received by authentically. I think a lot of other people just had really deeper connections with each other from many, many lives. And you were one of the people that I definitely felt really welcomed by from the moment I got there, arrived, welcome to this camp. What do you need? How are you doing? And I think that really speaks a lot to, just the ethos of Burning Man that really is important to curate at a camp. for people to feel, again, safe and comfortable, the community aspect, but also, like you were just saying, there's so much to navigate and get done. I mean, just within those, I was there for the build, so just within those first few days, I mean, Burning Man is just crazy. It's just, I tell everybody, I'm like, if you have the opportunity in your lifetime, it's just one of those things that if you can witness what humans are really capable of, it will shift your whole perspective on humanism. I mean, not just the community and the beauty and what people are, the gifting, all of that, but what people can create in 3, 4, 5 days. An entire city. I mean, if I just look at our camp and what we built, that dome, we built this big, beautiful dome with this vulva opening, and you went in and it was like a French, maybe you can explain it a little better. It was,
Yeah, you're doing great.
Yeah, like a French, we had a coffee bar in the daytime and a booby bar. You decorate your boobies with body paint and glitter. And then at night it turned into kind of like burlesque soiree vibes with this beautiful, we had paintings on the walls and live nude painting and a burlesque show. And it was really a special place, but really to think of building that dome and all of the hands it took, and to know that our camp was working so hard, blood, sweat, and tears there for 5 days, 4 days, and to know that there were 60,000 people around us just next door doing the same thing at their camp and preparing all year for this as well, like really dedicated. It just, I think that's what my biggest takeaway was how human hands can create so much when they believe in something and when they are passionate about something. But yeah, Burning Man, let's go there because it's a big part of your life. It's where we met. It feels like it's something that is divine in a lot of ways. It's brought me many places, Bali being one of them, right here with Joe being another one. So yeah, Burning Man, what has that been for you? What was your first burn like to your most recent burn? Is this something you'll do lifelong? What kind of communities have you dipped in and out of? And maybe what changes have you seen? And what feels like the most important thing to maintain every year you go back?
A lot of questions in there.
Yeah, anything along those lines, whatever flows.
I think coming into this current camp, Muse Cafe, one of the things I was really excited about was it was women-led. And that's been a theme in my life, which is if there's an opportunity to allow women to step up into the world and become leaders, that feels great. And I was supporting them the best way I could. And that felt really good. It felt really good. I'm really proud of the 3 women leading it and proud to be part of that for the 3rd year again. I think this will be my 15th year going back. So, at one point I used to say it was my last year. I've stopped saying that. And for me, what's special about it is the ability for people to come together and get creative and build things. For me, the community aspect is really beautiful, of coming together to build something and giving of yourself the best way that you can and learning. It's, in my life, I'm not swinging a hammer. I'm not building and climbing heavy things. And so I've learned a lot about letting go, lessons of letting go of who I think I am and those narratives. It's been about self-discovery and leadership and operating in, like I said, in chaos and difficulties. And you make a plan and nothing goes your way. A dust storm comes in, fuel runs out, whatever it is. This year, the rains came, it flooded everything, and how do you stay in joy during that entire process? When things are really rough and everything goes wrong, how do you just laugh and be in joy with amazing people? And also for me, it's been a playground, a sandbox, a testing ground of to test out, who do I want to be? What do I want to line into? Having that space to break patterns. How do we break those patterns? One year I had sold a company and I was really curious who I was with all of the things I was gathering and accumulating. And I realized that I was coming from a lot of scarcity as younger. this scarcity of feeling like I don't have community. And so I would just keep building and building and building it. Didn't have enough friends. So I kept building and building and building those. And money, just try to build with the business, try to make more money. And then I became the question of, who am I without the things I'm doing? Without people patting me on the back and saying, you're doing such a good job, you're doing such a cool thing, you're successful in that. Who am I? And so I was wondering, what do I really need? Like, how many physical objects do I really need? So I tested it. I took a carry-on suitcase and went traveling for 9 months. And I said, I can only have the things in this suitcase. I can't talk about the things that I'm doing. I can just be me. And who am I without these things? And if I bought something, I had to give something else away. Right? So now with very little things for 9 months, traveling all around the world. And I got to see a lot of who I was when I'm just the dude, not the community guy, not surrounded with people validating me. Because I was using a lot of community to validate myself. I was using attention from women to validate myself. Because if you are the hottest, most sexiest, most beautiful, most intelligent woman in the room, and you want me, then what does that say about me?
Yeah, of course.
It's validating.
Yeah.
And sexuality is the largest validation of them all. Because you're saying, I choose you to propagate my genes with, like, you are good enough to do this. So there's something deep in us that feels very validating on that. And I think looking back, that was a lot of that. And I would say even an unhealthy amount of that for sure. And that's been a journey, learning that about myself. So after doing that, I went to Burning Man and I made a rule. I said, I'm going to only take the things I really think I need. And I'm not going to be with some amazing, awesome camp doing some amazing, awesome project. I'm going to go by myself with one suitcase of just white pants, white t-shirts, underwear, so a couple changes of clothes, no costumes, no camp, no tent, and basic canned food, very minimal food. And my rule was I couldn't take anything from anyone. So if there was like a camp and they're giving out grilled cheese, that was okay. But I couldn't be like, hey friend, can I sleep in your place tonight? And wherever I was, I would just fall asleep when I was tired. And then every few days, every 2 days, I'd go back, I'd take a baby wipe shower, change my white pants for the same white pants, which I'm actually probably still wearing the same type of pants because I just wear the same white pants, keep it simple. So I only brought the things I thought I really needed. So basic food, basic clothing, and water bottle, dust mask, goggles, a bike with a basket to get around. And I just pile everything in my bike and then ride around for literally days, sleep when I was tired. And the third day, I come out of a meditation. Someone had stolen my dust mask, my goggles, and my headlamp. I still have my water bottle with me. So now, all the things I thought I really needed, like, because at Burning Man it gets very harsh, the dust is very harsh, and you need a light. And I was uncomfortable, but it turns out I didn't even need those. I survived. I was sleeping under a bus, on a couch, and when the dust came, I was uncomfortable. And no one could see me, and it was dangerous, but I was fine. So I learned that we actually need a lot less than we think we need. That's what I learned for myself. And I also learned a lot about when I met someone and I would tell them what I was doing. Some people would be like, weirdo. And others were like, that's cool. You're playing with that. Because I had gone to Burning Man for many years, so it was a way to experience it in a new way. And then I was thinking, do I even need food? So I was like, I think I only need like 1 can of soup a day. So I took my rest of my food on that Wednesday, made a little picnic, gave away the rest of my food. And I survived on 1 can of food a day at Burning Man for the rest of the time, and I was fine. I had an amazing time. But I learned who I was without being the community guy, without leading a camp or being in an amazing camp or leading a big project. And that was a really important lesson, that I found out that I'm just a guy that cares about people and listens. And knows how to communicate, and is down to help when people need help, and down to go out of my way when someone needs a hug or open arms or needs someone just to accept them for who they are. And, you know, when I moved to Bali, I lost all my businesses. Left the community, had a founder's dispute, and I started all over. I knew one person, my friend Ben. That's it. And, you know, a year later, I was running a festival, an abundance of friends again. And that's what I know about myself. You can take everything away from me. I can trust myself to create the spaces where I can thrive. And what an amazing thing to learn about yourself. And I'm pretty sure that most people have that skill, yet are terrified to allow themselves to even experience that. But we do not grow we're not going to grow if we don't go to our edges and try new things and be uncomfortable.
Yeah, comfort zone. We don't go there. We just don't.
The Connection Map is a framework. I'm releasing a book later this year. The Connection Labs, the community surrounding that. And what I'm learning is when writing this book and really breaking down human connection into all these different components and asking the question, like, what is actually there? What are all the attributes and components of human connection? There was a lot of different opinions, and I did a lot of research, and I started interviewing lots of people. And what I realized after pulling this together is essentially, as we look at human connection, the best ways to upgrade them is communication. So then I started asking these questions of what's the best way to upgrade the communication? What are the tools that people use? So we teach things like relationship check-ins, how to keep your relationship on track, how to have difficult conversations, such as like, hey, I'm noticing some unhealthy relationships with drugs or alcohol or porn. How do you talk about that without making someone feel more shamed and being like, I love you, and I'm noticing this thing that looks destructive to your life and destructive to us, and I just want to support you in that.
How can I support? Yeah, I think that's so important.
So we can talk about things like that, or things like, how to get your sexual needs met without making someone feel inadequate.
Yeah.
It can be terrifying, because if you do that the wrong way, it's going to get worse. If you do it the right way, you open up this space where someone's like, oh my God, I feel so free. I feel so safe. How do you do that?
Yeah.
So we learn a lot of that. And a lot of these techniques revolve around active listening. It revolves around nonviolent communication, are really amazing tools, but taking them specifically to relationships only. And I'm coining this term called the golden relationship, which is essentially means, in looking at the connection map and all the places, the question became, what do we need to have a really healthy relationship? And everyone I interviewed said almost the same thing. You need to be in certain parameters for it to be healthy. And it's all based on your perception. So, for example, how easy is it for you to communicate with this partner person? Well, if you say it's very, very difficult, it's probably not going to be a really healthy golden relationship, right? And a golden relationship isn't a perfect relationship. It's just one where you feel really free to be yourself and you feel supported. It's healthy dynamic. So
I'm curious to know, I guess, in that vein, like, because as somebody my partner who I was just with for the last 5 years, he is coming into his journey. And, you know, a big part of that was communication. He's big people pleaser parts, big silencing parts. His way of dealing with confrontation was to silence what his needs were and just listen. Yeah, babe, whatever you need, I got you. I'll change that. I'll work on that. And then end of conversation, nothing changes. And here we are 5 years later. I'm like, within the last few years, it's been, whoa. You know, I had to be patient while he found his voice. And he's still finding his voice. And we're actually taking space right now specifically so that he can step further into his own voice and what his needs are. And yeah, I guess my curiosity was around, if you don't immediately have with your partner in that, you're not in that box, that golden ratio box, but you care deeply about this person, do you supply tools of how people can help find patients? Like, what can they do while their partner's figuring out themselves what they need? How can they go to themselves and work on themselves without putting so much on the partner? You know what I'm saying? Like, is there something that you help cultivate within people that does allow for patience if the other partners maybe not quite where they need them to be, so to speak?
It's interesting. Thank you. Absolutely, yes. That's exactly what we do. And the reason why I created a community around it is because I don't have all the answers to that. But I'm surrounded with people that have incredible amounts of answers. And as a community, we can fill in all the gaps of each other's knowledge. And so what I would like to put back to you when hearing that is, and if you listen back to this, you were speaking a lot about how do we do this when my partner needs to find their voice, when my partner needs to do this. And what I would challenge you in is, what can you do for you?
Oof, that's all I've been doing.
Yeah.
And that's been, I guess, like, the journey has been, you are doing you. We're on very different timelines here. And it's just been an invitation of, why am I so impatient? What are my needs? How can I step further into myself and my own journey and put less pressure on you, take more accountability and responsibility with where I'm at, what my needs are? How can I fulfill my own needs? Which community has been so nourishing for that. I don't need to go to my partner to go skiing, to go to concerts, I don't require him to have meals with me. Like, I don't require him to do anything. He lets me travel for 4 months out of the year and we're both good. Like, no, there's no insecurity there. And a big part of that is because I am blessed to have communities around the world that I feel comfortable and safe and held by. I can get those things nourished from other people in my life. I don't need him to be the one to do all that. But mostly I can get it nourished by myself. I don't need him to do anything for me. However, there's moments, of course, right?
You want that, though.
Yeah, I have these inner children who need to be validated, of course. And they have their own wounding. And they absolutely want to feel wanted and loved and valued and all the things. And he does give me that when he can. And it's been more actually, how can I give that to you? How can I
that's
help
the question.
You find your voice? How can I make sure you're heard in this space as much as I am? That's really been what we've been doing. But
you could say, I'm noticing, and whatever you're noticing, I'm noticing that when I share my needs, you make it only about my needs and I'm not hearing your needs. And I really love you and I care about you. And I am truly interested in what you need. And thank you for listening to my needs and making it about me. And I appreciate that so deeply. But the only way this can work is if both our needs are getting met. So, is there any way I can support you in getting your needs? Is there anything that you feel like you're missing? Listen without thinking. Really listen to someone. Take it in. Don't think about what you're going to say next. Be present. You can take your left eye to left eye. If you want someone to feel really connected to you, just keep your left eye locked. You don't have to, it's not a staring contest, but just be with them. Soften, breathe into your body. You can roll your shoulders back and just take a breath. Be with that person. And then when they speak, listen. When they're done speaking, just count to 1,000 before you answer.
I love that. Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're constantly interrupting the other person because you're so excited to share. I want you to know what I think too. And let me tell you how I agree with you or how this relates to me. Try to avoid that and just listen. And then summarize what you heard them say. I heard you say that it's really difficult with your partner when you feel like they're not communicating their needs. And then that gives them an opportunity to clarify. No, it's not actually that he's not communicating his needs. I feel him shutting down and I can't feel him anymore. And then you can repeat. And then when they're done and they feel heard, that's when someone will listen to you. Here is the great chicken and egg problem about communication in humans. Someone will not listen to the other person until they feel like they've been listened to. So who does that first?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the person that knows how to do it. So be an example and a model, and listen, repeat back, let someone feel heard. And then when they're like, oh my God, you really understand my needs here. You really heard me. I really want to give that to you. Because as soon as you don't feel like someone's listening and you're trying to tell them what they did wrong, trying to blame them, you made me feel that way, you made me do this. No one can make you do anything or feel anything. You choose.
Mm-hmm.
Once you can take responsibility for your own feelings, and you can say something, for example, when you said this to me, I felt really hurt.
Mm.
And I felt like you didn't really understand what I was saying. And I just want to let you know it's okay. But I just want to share that with you. And you didn't do anything wrong, but I felt hurt when this happened. Instead of saying, you did this to me, because now it's blame and it puts someone into defensive mode, right? And truly mean that. Truly try to understand where someone's coming from and repeat that to him. Mm. Take a breath in between. Don't talk right away. This is the first thing you can learn about communication and connecting with someone. Mm. It's very simple. But difficult.
It sounds so simple.
So simple.
But I think all of us know that speaking from triggered parts is not a simple place to be.
Yeah. But listen, watch people's conversation. Notice who is always butting in, always interrupting, and give people all the time they need to speak. Even if it's 10 minutes monologue. Let them get through and say, what I think I heard you say is this. And if they need to go into another monologue, let them do it. What I think I heard you say is this.
That's a skill, though. I do have to say, being able to summarize back to people, to ask insightful questions, to help them go deeper or understand something more. I think it is a skill one can easily cultivate with practice. I do think it's a skill, though, and I'm curious to know if that's something that you help people cultivate, because I wouldn't say everyone just knows how to immediately hold that space and then really summarize back. I think it is a communication skill.
Yeah, we practice that, and we break into little one-on-ones and practice that. And you practice it with people that it doesn't matter if you fuck it up with, right? Yeah. So that when you get to your partner,
some more,
you're up-leveling your skills in communication. And, it doesn't just work for your partner, it works for everyone. Yeah. It's a joke that the best conversations, you talk to someone, you're asking them questions, you're actively listening, you repeat back a little bit what they say. At the end of the conversation, they say, oh my God, that was the best conversation I've ever had. And you're thinking to yourself, you actually just talked the entire time about yourself. But it's true. Everyone's favorite conversation is themselves. So allow them to be heard. Yeah. And in community, allow them to be heard in a group. And that's going to make people feel safe.
Yeah, so where can people access these things you offer? I mean, this is just scratching the surface of the wisdom you have around communication with relationships and just communication at large, right? Our relationships extend so much beyond intimate partners. It's a relationship to family, which can be some of the most challenging relationships to navigate and have healthy conversations around. Our work environment, whether it's our employees or our boss. But most importantly, our relationship to ourselves, the way that we talk to ourselves, the way we get deep, have inquiry and curiosity around ourselves, so much stems into then how we hold space in relationship is really also how we hold relationship with self. For me, IFS has been really helpful because for the accountability aspect of seeing, well, who are my parts and who are they showing up? And noticing maybe who your parts might be, but also staying in curiosity because I will never know who your parts are, right? Only you know who your parts are. And only you can tell me that in a space that's safe. And I think, where can people access this wealth of wisdom you have around community and communication?
Yeah, the easiest way is to join the community, the Connection Lab community. Or you can find me on Instagram. It's joe.che.tandle. Maybe you can drop a link.
I will have all of this.
Yes, all the socials. Or theconnectionmap.com. And you can read the book. But I think the big one that I would encourage people to do is join the community. We get together every week. We practice all these tools because the reality is it is a skill. I was not born with amazing communication skills, and I still screw it up sometimes, and it's embarrassing. It's like, I should know this.
Lifelong practice.
It's a lifelong practice. Probably should be a little better than I am at the moment. But, you know, how do we support each other in this journey of really learning how to upgrade ourselves and our connection? 'Cause the better connections we have, the happier we are. So I think the big thing is come to the Connection Lab, get together every week, join these people who are really passionate about upgrading their relationship skills, their communication skills, because we practice it. And the better communication you have, the happier you're going to be because you have better relationships. And everyone around you is going to be smoother, easier, whether that's in business, your romantic partnerships, your friendship. It just shows up all over the place. And this is the key, right? Key to happiness is happy relationships, healthy relationships. So how do you get there? Communication. How do you get to the communication? Practice. Learn a few skills, even a couple little ones that you can, in 1 hour, it's completely different. Completely different.
Seeking out those teachers and mentors out there who have these skills that they can offer you. And if that's something you're curious about for yourself, here's Joe Tandle, someone you can easily find through many networks and begin your journey there and just see where it takes you. But relationships, it's one of the most important. That's the human experience, you know. And again, not just relationship to other, but also to self. And all of that is packaged into communication. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for being part of my journey in this world, and I'm happy to be part of yours. So thank you so much for having me.
And I'll put all of those links in the show notes for anyone who's curious to learn more, find out more, connect to the community lab, or even work one-on-one if they're really trying to dive deep. Thank you.
Thank you.